So we're here in town during the tail end of the salmon run, of them going back up to lay their eggs in the stream. We aren't seeing them jump like regularly, but if you watch the rapids, see a handful of them jump, and there's a few pools off to the side where we're assuming they're laying their eggs. We've made it to our first stop of the cruise at Ketchikan. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. This one isn't a major stop. The only thing that we really have that we're going to go see is the Totem Museum. That's a little north of the actual port that we're porting at. But to get there, we're going to take the shuttle down to the city of Ketchikan and then find a cab that'll take us back up to the Totem Museum. So I'll see you guys probably at the Totem Museum unless we decide to wander around the city first. So I'm not sure exactly what our plans are. But when you first walk into off the port and into like the port building, or I guess you could say, it's the nicest port building I've ever been to. It's kind of like the actual Vancouver airport. They have this nice little fountain waterfall thing set up, and it seems like it's like a mini camping store in here. So looking forward to exploring this area, and I'll show you guys when we get out. We've made it down into downtown Ketchikan, and Ketchikan means thundering wings. Like this statue that's back here behind me is an eagle flapping its wings, the thundering wings, although the statue looks like a pooping eagle. And we're heading down into downtown. I think we're heading into this little bakery coffee shop called Sweet Mermaids, because that's a great name, and we want to check it out and get some coffee. And I learned a little bit about this whole town and this whole area, and that a large chunk of the road, the town and everything right on the edge is actually not on land. It's actually all built up platform on basically just raised steel beams that they build the road, they build all the shops, the buildings, everything on, because they needed a way to get around easier and transport things, because the roads up here on the cliff and the edge are so narrow. It was just an easier means of transport. But really liking this port so far. We haven't made it up to the Totem Museum yet, but we will be heading there shortly, I believe. So I'll see you guys at the Totem Museum, and maybe I'll let you know how the Sweet Mermaids is after we get some stuff in there. Sweet Mermaid coffee review. Not great, not horrible. It's drinkable. So good coffee, or decent coffee for the price, and it's actually locally owned, as in like indigenous locally owned. So it's nice to support them. They have a nice little shop in there. We didn't actually buy anything from the shop, as prices were a bit high, but it is Alaska. They did have high quality shirts and stuff like that. So definitely a good, decent stop if you want some coffee when you're walking around town. So since we're all big museum people, and we saw that there was a small local museum in town called the Tongass Historical Museum, after we all had our coffee, we wanted to stop in and check it out. And honestly, I am pretty sure we are the only people from our cruise that had went in, since it seems like most people don't generally care about history that much. It also just so happened that there was a class trip going on at the time, so it was extremely loud in there, hence the reason for the voiceover. The first little room we walked through was definitely geared towards kids, and it was all about dinosaurs. Then we headed into a more recent local history. With the first sections, we walked through very largely about fishing in the area, walls filled with photographs from decades past. They had a case filled with old scuba gear, and others filled with different fishing and boating tools and instruments. And when exploring this small but packed with information museum, we couldn't help but see the giant windows spanning a good chunk of the walls, and they gave a beautiful view of the river below. And at this point, this was the first view we had of the river, and we had no idea what we were going to get to see when we got down there. We knew there had to be a way down there, though we didn't see any tourists there. So I made a mental note to ask one of the employees if it was possible to get down there when we were leaving. They did happily tell me how. But on with the museum, the next piece that you can't help but it catch your eye is the old lighthouse reflector. This giant, intricate piece of glass made to magnify light and send it vast distances. Just around the corner from that is a section to the old town, with a small case for the old sheriff and jail-related things, and then just across from that, a much larger case to the bar with liquor and gambling and other items from the time. After that, we head into the largest area of the museum with a massive centerpiece. Though I am very intrigued by the giant bear sculpture in the middle of the room, I decided to look at the side displays first and save the best for last. Around this final room are displays for different jobs in the area, from flying to mining to logging, and finishing off this museum with the awesome bear art display in the middle. I really loved this piece. After this, we headed down to the river's edge where there happened to be a guy fishing and we couldn't see him from the window. After that, we walked down the stream a little bit from him and got closer to the rapids for a better view. So we're here in town during the tail end of the salmon run, of them going back up to lay their eggs in the stream. We aren't seeing them jump like regularly, but if you watch the rapids for a while, you'll see a handful of them jump occasionally, and there's a few pools off to the side where we're assuming they're laying their eggs, of just hundreds of salmon just crowded together. Had no idea we were going to be here during this time, but it was pretty cool. I never really thought that I would see the whole salmon run thing of them jumping. Not lucky enough to see like a bear up there catching them, but cool enough to see the salmon like that. We're wrapping up our day in Ketchikan. We did not make it up to the totem, the Atlas Obscura site, the totem museum up north, because we ended up falling in love with this little tourist trap, Ketchikan town, and just wandered it for the whole time we were in port. And we also didn't eat in time, because by the time we were ready to eat, all the restaurants had like long waits and we just wouldn't make it back in time. So fingers crossed we do it earlier in Juneau and can actually have some king crab or something. And before we head back to our ship, we're stepping off here to take in this beautiful view. Then we're heading back to the ship, and tomorrow we'll be in Juneau. So see you guys tomorrow in Juneau.
No, that makes me happy.
Down he goes.